Chapter 731, LV Kong is coming. After he finished speaking, Zhang Han also came to his senses. He chuckled and said, "Stop talking about this anymore. I don't like this topic either. Fine, let's change the subject." Zhang Guangyu was in a much better mood now and his eyes shone as he said, "What you said earlier, is that really true? Will you break through the elixir stage and the Yuan Ying stage without any shackles?" "Of course it's true, but I need time as well as a large number of spirit treasures to fortify myself. I'll do it step by step." Zhang Han answered, "Indeed, impatience is the greatest impediment in the process of cultivating." Zhang Wangyu said with a nod, "Besides, the cultivation system you mentioned seems to be a very high-end type, for I've never heard of the Yuan Ying stage before. It's said that the experts at the elixir stage can forget it. You still have a long way to go to reach such a stage and it is better that you take your time to learn about it later. In fact, I want to ask, when will you and Yan have a second child? Can I have a grandson? Your mother and I want to cultivate a little talent and you have to satisfy us in this regard, right?" Buzz. Zhang Han was totally at a loss at this point. "A fat boy, how do we get another baby?" Zhang Han sighed after pondering for a while. "Xian can't give birth to any child for the time being." "What do you mean?" "I remember that Zif once told me that Yan has a chance to have another baby and I think infertility can be solved easily, right?" Zhang Guangyu looked at Zhang Han doubtfully. "Infertility, Dad, you're too naive." Zhang Han shook his head and said, "I certainly know Xian best since she's my wife, who harbors such deep secrets that even the ancient cursed rock took the initiative to recognize her as its host. Such unknown factors are definitely something to be wary of. As for the reason why she was able to give birth to Meng Meng, it may be due to God's will." Zhang Wangyu froze. After keeping silent for 5 seconds, he said, "Who can I impart my skills to if I don't have a grandson?" "You don't need to worry about that." Zhang Han laughed and said, "Dad, instead of requiring you to teach others, I'll pass on some real skills and secret techniques later." "Oh? Do you know what kind of cultivation method I am practicing?" "Your grandfather obtained it through a narrow escape, which was left by an ancestor at the elixir stage and bore powerful momentum, but unfortunately, it is incomplete. As such, I got into trouble at the beginning and my cultivation even regressed as well. That's why I came out of the worldlet in those days. Fortunately, I met your mother. Why are you treating the incomplete cultivation method left by a man at the elixir stage as a treasure?" Zhang Han did not know whether to laugh or cry. "Let me observe you carefully for some time, then I'll find a suitable method for you." "Okay, I will wait for you." Zhang Wangyu patted Zhang Han on the shoulder, feeling very pleased. The depression he felt after meeting Zhang Li's boyfriend also dissipated a lot. All the people present were chatting away. On the other side, the manor of the LV family was full of people. 3 elders were sitting at the head of the table in the hall of the main residence. The one in the middle was an old man who was dressed in a black tang suit with a fan in his right hand. He was LV Kong, who had just broken through to the Heaven Realm stage. The 2 people beside him were at the God Realm medium stage and the God Realm peak stage respectively. They were not only superiors of the LV family, but also LV Kong's right-hand men. Those who were 1 level below them were 12 Wu Dao Grandmasters. They were sitting in the 2nd row. As for the management of the LV family, such as Patriarch LV, they were sitting in the 3rd row. The atmosphere here was tense as Patriarch LV and his companions told them what had happened at noon, with strong confidence. They inevitably added some trimmings to the narration. In his view, the Zhao clan was completely negligible. In the face of the master at the Heaven Realm stage, Zhang Hanyang and Emperor King were non-entities. "Brother." After learning the news, those who came out of the local worldlet were all calm, though they had a variety of expressions on their faces. After a moment of silence, the elder, with a dark face and a scar on his left cheek, on the left of side of LV Kong, turned to look at LV Kong and said, "Now that they chose to launch an attack, they'll pay the price they deserve. It is time to show our prestige." That's right. The other bold elder nodded and said, our family already occupies an extraordinary position. If we don't respond to their attack, we will absolutely be laughed at by others. Third uncle, the decision is based on maintaining our reputation. Patriarch LV also stood up and said, The others also got up in succession, communicating the same idea that they needed to fight. While the people present became rowdier, LV Kong brandished the fan in his hand. It is Zhang Han and Emperor King, the new generation of martial artists in Huan Nation who is supporting the Zi clan. In addition to them, the warlord of Chan clan, Gai Xingkong and Wang are also helping them. Moreover, the Zi clan is on good terms with the Liang clan. They are all powerful and influential men. What? Does he intend to give up? Many people gradually held their breath and their enthusiasm seemed to wane. There was no doubt that their opponents were indeed formidable, so they could not do anything about them if LV Kong did not take action. However, he could crush everything once he joined the fight personally. After all, he was at the Heaven Realm stage. It was no exaggeration to say that anyone who broke through to the Heaven Realm stage in this world would affect the setup of the aristocratic families. The LV family was about to become one of the dominators. They, therefore, would definitely seize the opportunity to destroy the Zi clan in order to build their prestige. But why was LV Kong afraid of the weak? Many members of the LV family felt wronged. However, they did not expect that LV Kong's following words would instantly excite them. He said slowly, the forces supporting the Zi clan are qualified to arouse my interest. Hiss. His words gave many people goose pimples in an instant. Let's go. The white fan in LV Kong's right hand seemed to glow as he stood up silently. Just when everyone stood up, a man in his early 20s hurried in with a respectful look. After extending his greetings, he said, I just got news from the Liang clan that they're going to visit the Zi clan tonight. Zhang Han Yang's parents are back, while Zhang Han Yang's sister is in touch with Liang Hao of the Liang clan. Oh? Patriarch LV sneered, they are in a hurry to court death. Let's go there in the evening. LV Kong said in a calm tone and then turned to leave. The others also left in succession, but they were overwhelmed by excitement at this time. It was like a group with thousands of troops going to fight against the weak opponents. Each of them had a gloating look on their faces, as if they were about to abuse someone. Actually, their rivals were fierce tigers rather than docile cats. Only when the characters representing King showed on their foreheads would they know how cruel their opponents were. Most people always liked to put themselves in commanding positions, and the LV family totally forgot that the battle was attributed to a series of orders given by them. Time passed slowly. Zhang Han and Zhang Guangyu chatted for a while. As the regret in his mind dissipated, Zhang Han felt the joys of life and completely held in his temper. After chatting for about half an hour, they returned to the restaurant. Meng could not wait any longer. The dinner was almost over, so everyone went to the villa. 2 hours later, Ziqiang came over in high spirits. Zihu thought that it would be good if he were to show up tonight, so he sobered him up. Otherwise, Ziqiang would probably sleep until midnight. In-law, shall we play chess now? Okay. Zhang Wangyu smiled and sat at the chess table with him. However, Zhang Wangyu found something strange. What level is he on? Zhang Wangyu glanced at Ziqiang several times. He was indeed bad at playing chess. He forced himself to have 3 rounds of chess with him. Then he said, Han, play chess with your father-in-law and I'll have a talk with your mother. Zhang Wangyu, the famous lord of battle, made his escape. Then, he chatted with Liang Hao and Liang Mengkai for a while on quite a pleasant note, mainly because Meng accompanied them. The night fell as they chatted. The Zi clan had prepared a sumptuous banquet, inviting not only Zhang Han and his family, but also the members of the Liang clan. Since this was the first time that Liang Hao's and Zhang Li's parents were meeting each other, Ziqiang held a grand feast. Ziqiangshan, the former patriarch, was the busiest among them. Although he had made some mistakes, he was still very capable. At about 6 o'clock, the members of the Liang clan arrived. Liang Hao and Liang Mengkai were still somewhat anxious, fearing that there would be conflicts. Furthermore, they felt that Zhang Wenyu still bore some grudges even though he agreed on Zhang Li and Liang Hao's relationship. In fact, they did not expect that Zhang Wenyu showed great respect for Liang Hao's parents and greeted all the people of the Liang clan. After being seated at the temporarily prepared rectangular dining table, they chatted with each other enthusiastically. Finding that Liang Hao and Zhang Li had won Zhang Wenyu's and Rong Jiali's favor, Patriarch Liang asked with a smile, "Brother Zhang, the two kids have been dating for a period of time and they're very suited for each other. Although it might seem a little abrupt, I think they can get engaged first. What do you think, Brother Zhang?" "Relax." Zhang Guanyu shook his head directly. "Now we are busy with my son and Yan's wedding. Let's talk about it later." "Ah, well, that's right. It all depends on you." Patriarch Liang did not pursue the subject and changed the topic then. Even so, the next moment, Zhang Guanyu raised his eyebrows slightly as his face darkened. "What?" Patriarch Liang's heart skipped a beat. "Did my behavior make him unhappy?" While he was wondering, Zilong, Zihu and a few martial artists of the Liang clan were all stunned. They felt a tremendous pressure and heard a dull sound at the same time, which rang out from the gate of the manor of Zi clan. "Is the LV family coming?" Zilong and all the others present looked at each other, quickly got up and went out, followed by the elder of the Liang clan. After they went out, Gai Xingkong glanced at Zhang Guanyu and said in a low voice, "We failed to stop them. Well, let's go." Zhang Guanyu was also aware that they did not come with good intentions, so he nodded. "I have something to deal with first." After saying that, Zhang Guanyu left with Gai Xingkong. The restaurant fell silent for a moment. Zhang Han did not go out but held Meng Meng in his arms and whispered to her. Zilong and his companions arrived at the gate speedily. After they figured out what was happening, their faces darkened. The gate of the Zi clan had been destroyed and the 4 guards were lying on one side of the road. Bang, 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 bang. The sounds of the opening and closing of the doors from more than a dozen black Porsche Cayenne idling at the roadside echoed loudly in the area. Over a dozen Grandmaster Strong and Patriarch LV of the LV family got out of the cars and looked over coldly. "What is the meaning of this?" Zilong scowled angrily. Smashing their clan's door was akin to a slap on their faces. "What do I mean? Ha ha ha." Patriarch LV sneered, "Why are you asking us what we mean since you hurt the members of my LV family?" Chapter 732, Fighting in the Sky. After Patriarch LV finished speaking, several disciples of the LV family echoed what he said. Some laughed, some questioned and some analyzed his words seriously. The Zi family is just a commercial family. Don't you know the status of the LV family? Are you qualified to fight against us? However wealthy you are not powerful enough to challenge us. You are going to destroy yourselves. How dare you bully my family members? And what does the Liang family want to do? Huh? Are you going to stand with the Zi family? You will definitely be killed here tonight if you fail to give us a satisfactory answer. Zilong's face turned pale when he heard this. He was so angry that his body trembled, but there was fear in his eyes. He glanced at the first car and indistinctly saw 3 aged men in the back and the passenger seats. LV Kong? Heaven Realm. What can we do? Zilong and the others were feeling rather anxious, but he remained calm and asked, "What answer do you want?" Ha ha. Seeing this, the LVS thought they would come to a compromise. The patriarch of the LV family could not help laughing and said, "He who knows the current affairs is a hero and you are also smart. Now I'd like to talk about the conditions. In addition to the things mentioned before, the Zi family should take out half of your assets to compensate for the injuries suffered by some members of the LV family. At the same time, you should give up the shares of the 7 companies in the Eastern District and withdraw from the Chamber of Commerce. This is your only choice." "Oh, you can still say no." Looking at Zilong, whose face darkened, Patriarch LV laughed and clapped his hands. You should know what will happen if you refuse. It's better to keep your life and spend your money. As for the Liang family, we know about your cooperation. Since you want to participate in this game, it will be good if you take out 1/3 of your property to ensure your safety, otherwise what? Suddenly, a cold voice came from behind. Patriarch LV and the others looked over and found a group of 3 people walking over. Zhang Wenyu, Gaik Singkong and Chen Chenking. With the presence of a high-level elder, Patriarch LV did not panic at all and replied coldly, "Otherwise I'll destroy all of you." "How arrogant you are!" Zhang Wenyu sneered. "The LV clan covets the properties of other people and bullies the other families unreasonably. Have you ever reflected on your behavior? It's not unreasonable bullying, otherwise the Zi family would not get the position as president of the Chamber of Commerce. Now we are using some means like you. Don't be so arrogant if you don't have enough power. Are you sure you deserve it or not?" Patriarch LV scoffed. "What is a good reason?" Zhang Guanyu became serious. "When the forest is big, there are all kinds of birds. To let you and the other scums live is to endanger social stability." Buzz. In an instant, Zhang Guanyu stamped hard on the ground with his left foot. Boom. A stream of powerful energy surged from the ground and headed to where Patriarch LV and the others were located. In the first car, the pupils of 3 aged men shrank. They did not expect that there would be a martial artist at Earth Peak stage. They were caught off guard by Zhang Wenyu's sudden move. Bang! With a dull noise, the doors and the roof of the car were shattered. The aged man with a dark complexion who was standing behind LV Kong said in a startled voice, "Hide quickly." Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. LV Kong did not speak, but he reacted quickly. The fan in his right hand instantly opened and he made a downward movement. A strong energy was generated at the feet of Patriarch LV and the others. Boom! A heavy muffled sound could be heard coming from all directions. Zhang Wenyu's attack was blocked by LV Kong. How powerful were they? One had reached the Heaven Peak only recently and the other was at Earth Peak stage. Ordinary people would not be able to bear the aftermath of their battle. 99% of all the attacks dissipated, but there was still a small amount of force that could be felt. Zhang Wenyu's target was the arrogant Patriarch LV. Puff! Patriarch LV spat out a mouthful of blood. His chi and spirit were considerably weakened and then his body went limp as if he had no bones. With only one strike, Zhang Guanyu killed Patriarch LV. Several ordinary people beside him were hurt and fell weakly to the ground. Hiss! Many onlookers gasped in fear. They were Zilong and the Liangs. In a daze, they turned their heads to stare at Zhang Guanyu and were so shocked that they did not know what to say. My God, he is a super powerful martial artist. He is related to Heavenly Knights sect. Is he also Heaven State strong? Everyone felt chills running down their spines. The faces of the people from the LV family darkened. So did LV Kong. His eyes were filled with anger. Although he did not care much about the lives and deaths of ordinary people, the feeling of being slapped on his face by someone was unbearable. Good, I'll fulfill your wish since you want to die. LV Kong's chi which shrouded his body rose sharply, as if he had turned into the devil. His eyes glowed brightly and the pressure he exuded made everyone present tremble with fear. But Zhang Guanyu was not afraid. If the upper beam is not straight, the lower ones will go aslant. Zhang Guanyu said in a cold voice, "You are just a beginner in cultivation. Do you really think you are invincible?" Glang! In a flash, a long knife appeared in Zhang Guanyu's right hand, which was different from the one he used before. As soon as the blade appeared, the chi belonging to top-level artifact appeared. Looking carefully at the new blade, they found that its handle had a curved dragon head, with a wide body and a serrated back. There were several black marks on the blade, which gave the others a sensation that the blade must be extremely sharp. LV Kong, a murderous-looking man, narrowed his eyes in fear when he saw the blade. Dragon Tooth, who are you? His eyes were filled with horror. Boom! As soon as he uttered these two words, the other two aged men of the LV family were also shocked and became completely serious. Gai Xingkong's face changed slightly, but Zilong and Zihu were still at a loss. After thinking about it, they turned pale and looked at Zhang Guangyu's blade in horror. Dragon Tooth was one of the three evil weapons in ancient times. The maker of the sword was unknown. It was that with lots of Ying forging materials. The blade had weird abilities and had taken countless lives. Some people remember that the last time Dragon Tooth appeared, it was in the hands of Zhang Shenwang, who used it as a weapon in his youth. With the blade, Zhang Shenwang had killed countless disciples of Wind Snow School, which scared the whole martial arts world. Zhang Shenwang was not dead yet, but this man was holding the Dragon Tooth sword. His identity was obvious. Heavenly Knights Sect. These three words felt like a mountain pressing down and rendered LV Kong breathless. There were many Heaven Peak stage martial artists in Heavenly Knights Sect. It was too terrifying. To be honest, even the whole LV family could not defeat a single master from there. Are you from Heavenly Knights Sect? Who are you? LV Kong was shocked. They did not doubt the authenticity of Dragon Tooth, because the chi of a spirit treasure could not be copied and the saber was easily recognizable from its appearance. Now what they suspected was Zhang Wengyu's identity. Since he could hold this Dragon Tooth, he might not only be a disciple from Heavenly Knights Sect, but also a person with a profound background. For a while, LV Kong felt chills running down his back and the expressions on the other two aged men of the LV family changed slightly and they did not dare to speak. Now what they suspected was the identity of Zhang Wangyu. Retreat or fight? Clatter. Zhang Wengyu's question and his chi exerted a strong pressure on his opponent. You. LV Kong's face darkened. His chi rose to the heaven stage and even cooled down the area he was in. The other Grand Masters of the LV family trembled with fear, but the two aged men eventually came to their senses. The dark-skinned man said slowly, Heavenly Knights Sect is very powerful, but this is not a place where you can be arrogant. The LV family is also famous. Do you think you can defeat us just by being a disciple of Heavenly Knights Sect? Hee, maybe we will turn around and leave as soon as Zhang Shenwang comes. But you are far from enough, young man. Remember that one log cannot prop up a tottering building. Yes. Another aged man sneered. Everyone knows about the conflict between Heavenly Knights Sect and Wind Snow School. In recent years, Wind Snow School has rapidly expanded its scale and is becoming more and more powerful, while Heavenly Knights Sect stayed in the Kungzu world and cannot even defeat Wind Snow School now. Why are you so arrogant when you are here alone? The two men's words made a sinister look appear on LV Kong's face. This is not the Kungzu world and you'd better not to go too far. As long as you leave the Dragon Tooth to us as the price for killing my family member, I will let you go. Ha 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 ha. Zhang Wengyu seemed to think it was a joke. He raised his head and laughed. What a powerful family. If you want my Dragon Tooth, come and take it. Whoosh. After saying that, Zhang Wengyu flew into the air quickly. LV Kong laughed grimly and followed him. Although he did not mind fighting here, it was not good for him and the LV family to make too much noise. They are going to fight. All the Grand Master Strongs of the LV family were shocked and looked up at the sky nervously. The two aged men looked viciously at the Z family members. Since they were going to fight, they would like to kill them all. Ha ha. Suddenly a mocking laugh rang out. Shen Qingqing and Gai Xingkong took a few steps forward and looked at the two aged men of the LV family. Gai Xingkong said slowly, want to fight? Among the two elders of the LV family, the one at God Realm Peak stage hesitated, frowned and pondered for 2 seconds before he uttered a sentence. When your patron dies, it's up to you, don't worry. Maybe it will be your LV family members who will die. Gai Xingkong sneered. He did not take any further action, but looked up at the real battlefield above. The result of the two men's battle determined the safety of both sides. As far as his eyes could see, the two men had risen into the air and the thin clouds around them were gradually converging into a big dark cloud. It was going to rain. The pedestrians in the surrounding streets were not surprised, but sped up their own paces. Boom, kaboom. Thunder came from above. It was like a thunderstorm, but it was actually a battle between two martial artists. Guan Yu is close to Earth Peak stage, while his opponent has recently reached Heaven Peak stage. As an excellent disciple of Heavenly Knight's sect, Guan Yu may have the chance to win. Gai Xingkong talked to himself and he could not stop worrying. The situation above was invisible to the naked eye, so the Divine Realm martial artists in the presence activated their soul senses. Fortunately, the place where the two men fought was not very high. If they were at a height of 10,000 meters, some of the onlookers' spiritual senses were not powerful enough to reach that height. People on the ground quickly detected the fighting above. They fought so hard that the others could not help but gasp in astonishment. A fight of Heaven Realm martial artists. Shen Qingqing looked serious. He realized that there was a big gap between Divine Realm and Earth or Heaven Realm. Chapter 733, Harsh Words. Buzz. Suddenly, a blaring engine sound blasted into everyone's ears. They turned around and saw many cars rushing in from the broken gate of the Xi family. Among them, there were several black armored cars and several Mercedes-Benz cars. Everyone's attention was attracted. The spirit group. The eyes of all the Liu family martial artists were fixed on them. It was Su Long, the leader of the spirit group, who got off the first armored vehicle. Being a Grand Master, he was weaker than many of the martial artists present. But his voice was still very important, because he represented the government. In the age of science and technology, the strength of the government was beyond doubt. What was more, there were enough high-level martial artists serving the government. Besides them, He Chen, the elder of the He family, and several Grand Masters who were paying a visit to the Xi family came down from several Mercedes-Benz cars. After seeing them, everyone in the Liu family became serious. The man with a partially dark skin said faintly, "Are you here to cheer them up?" Since they were being questioned, He Chen and others changed their facial expressions. They looked at the people on the side of the Xi family, feeling that the situation had become quite complicated. They wanted to make friends with Zhang Han Yang and the others, but the Liu family was too powerful. "We are following group leader Su. Ha ha." The aged man of the Liu family sneered and looked at Su Long. Finally, he fixed his eyes on the two people behind Su Long. Divine Realm. In the end, he didn't say anything. He had noticed that there were also several Divine Realm martial artists among the Xi family who were watching the battle above. Boom boom boom. There were thunderous blasts in the sky. Su Long looked up at the sky and sighed, "So exciting." Then he waved to the people behind him, "Inform the relevant departments to start the rain bomb." Ordinary people would find it strange if there was only thunder and no rain. Su Long passed a lot of orders while the two were fighting above. Since he can fight with the elder of the Liu family for such a long time, he surely isn't a nobody. He's holding Dragon Tooth. Is he a disciple of Heavenly Knight's sect? The two Divine Realm martial artists behind Su Long were shocked when they saw Gai Xingkong and the others. With the roar, the heavy rain fell slowly, and the lights flickered. It looked like thunder, but it was actually the sparks of the two people fighting. Above all the dark clouds, both Liu Kong and Zhang Guangyu were extremely quick, and all kinds of moves were played at high speed. The unfolded fan in Liu Kong's right hand was also a divine weapon, but it wasn't better than Dragon Tooth. Zhang Guangyu's way of wielding his sword was very fierce, and his saber had a swallowing ability. Liu Kong noticed that every attack he made would be weakened to enhance his opponent's saber moves. Liu Kong was stronger than Zhang Guang, but he couldn't defeat his opponent after having fought for a while, something that made Liu Kong gradually angrier. Don't think that only your weapons have powerful capabilities. After the two fought each other, Liu Kong retreated for several tens of meters and suddenly sneered, "Drunk butterfly." After the two fight each other, Liu Kong retreated for several tens of meters and suddenly sneers, "Drunk butterfly." Huh? Illusions? Zhang Guangyu slightly frowned. The butterfly in front of him was so illusory that it was hard to tell whether it was real or not. He couldn't perceive it with his soul sense. It's true when you believe that it's true. You haven't reached the heaven realm yet, and you don't know how powerful the high-level martial artists can be. I've studied this method for 50 years until I reached the heaven realm and finally understood it. You're the first person to witness its power, and it'll be a worthy death for you, Liu Kong said calmly. According to his expression, he must have come up with a plan. That scene was completely invisible to the people watching the battle, but Liu Kong's words were heard by all. What's the name of that move? I can't sense it. Is this Liu Kong's secret skill? It must be so. He has studied the moves for 50 years, and the power of his move is unquestionable. Liu Kong's opponent is in trouble. He will be killed if he can't block the move. A few comments were heard all over the Zimana. Zhang Wangyu frowned, his fighting spirit was boiling, and the saber in his right hand was shining faintly. One move to resist all kinds of magic. Roaring waves. Glang. Suddenly, a buzzing sound was heard. For the first time, Zhang Wangyu had used his powerful secret skill. Zhang Wangyu moved very slowly. He held the saber with his right hand and drew a circle in the air, starting from his back. Then the saber ended on the left side of his body. He was currently holding the saber with both hands. He drew a circle again and slashed from the side. Clatter. The sound of waves surged out. The immense energy of the first move was attacking Liu Kong at an extremely fast speed, like the first wave, followed by the second, the third, the fourth. The continuous attacks were like a real ocean. Soon after, Zhang Wangyu had already attacked Liu Kong more than 30 times. The first 20 attacks had no effect on the butterflies. At this time, the butterflies were only 10 meters away from Zhang Wangyu. As he was making the 25th attack, the speed of thousands of butterflies was suddenly dropped. When he was making the 30th move, all the butterflies stopped. At the moment, they were only 1 meter away from Zhang Wangyu. The 40th attack, thousands of butterflies seemed to move with the waves and retreated in unison. When Zhang Wangyu was making the 60th attack, those butterflies seemed to have integrated with the waves and began to attack Liu Kong at a high speed. You have learned so little in the past 50 years. Zhang Wangyu sneered. Liu Kong's face darkened, seeing Zhang Wengyu's continuous attacks. He waved his hand to dissipate his drunk butterfly. Endless wind. Endless wind. None of the Divine Realm warriors present could sense this attack. All of them were shocked. The Heaven Realm is so powerful and horrifying. The two of them are both super powerful martial artists standing at the top of the world. If this battle would have taken place on the ground, I'm afraid they would destroy a large number of buildings. Even Chen Chenking was surprised. When can I reach the Heaven Realm? Gai Xingkong felt excited and a little depressed at the same time. I have a long way to go to catch up with Guangyu. In the dining room, Rong Jiali sat still, paying close attention to the situation above. Don't worry, Zhang Han smiled and said, Liu Kong is easy to handle. From the very beginning, he could tell that this battle would not end well. If Liu Kong fought to the death, his father might be seriously injured, but Liu Kong would definitely die in the end. However, did Liu Kong dare to fight to the death? He dared not. He had just reached the Heaven Realm, and he was unwilling to die. What a pity that I haven't reached the Heaven Realm yet, otherwise, Zhang Han shook his head slightly, otherwise, her father wouldn't have fought with others. I'll soon be above the innateness stage. A gleam flashed in Zhang Han's eyes. The next thing he needed to do was to break through and become an innateness martial artist. That way Zhang Han wouldn't have to worry so much. Zhang Guangyu's domineering manner pleased Zhang Han. It could be seen that Zhang Guangyu's 7 kinds of basic saber skills were excellent, and he was currently at the Earth Peak stage. With the help of the Dragon Tooth saber, it was no problem for him to fight against a nobody like Liu Kong. Boom boom boom. The fierce battle in the air had entered the most intense stage. Liu Kong's various moves were extremely powerful. With each blow, the wind and clouds surged. and the crazy energy seemed to have made a gap in the sky. Zhang Wenyu fought more bravely than ever before, and occasionally gave a laugh or two. His attack was very fierce and full of momentum. Several Divine Realm onlookers felt their blood boiling and they yearned to take part in such a battle. Liu Kong was astonished. "Who are you?" He looked at Zhang Wenyu, Zhang Wenyu of the Heavenly Knights sect. Everyone heard his thunder-like voice. Liu Kong was stunned and then exclaimed in surprise, "Zhang Wenyu, the Lord of Battle." As soon as he said this, the two Divine Realm martial artists behind Su Long were shocked. "My God, Zhang Wenyu, the Lord of Battle has become a strong man at the Earth Peak stage. How many years has it been? It's amazing." After knowing Zhang Wenyu's identity, they were even more shocked. The Heavenly Knights sect was still powerful. Boom! The two men made another terrible attack on each other, and then Liu Kong retreated for hundreds of meters and nodded repeatedly. "Okay, Zhang Wenyu, I'll keep it in mind." "What? Do you want to trouble me later?" Zhang Wenyu also stopped attacking to look at Liu Kong calmly. His spiritual force had been almost consumed. "So what? Don't think that I can't do anything about you because you're a disciple of the Heavenly Knights sect. I'll give you a chance. Before dark the next day, you and the Zi family have to leave Singapore, otherwise, I will raze everything to the ground." Liu Kong didn't want to fight anymore. He didn't believe that Zhang Wenyu could turn to the top management of the Heavenly Knights sect for help. After all, the Wind Snow School was very difficult to deal with for them. If he knew that Zhang Wenyu was the young master of Heavenly Knights sect, Liu Kong wouldn't have expressed himself this way. Zhang Wenyu burst out laughing. "Good, since you say so, I would like to tell you that before 12 o'clock this evening, the Liu family has to leave Singapore, otherwise the consequences will be at your own risk. I have warned you in this way. As for how to do it, you should consider it by yourself." With that, Zhang Wenyu no longer wanted to pay any more attention to him and turned around to land. It was a little difficult for him to fight against a Heaven Realm opponent. So arrogant. Liu Kong was angry and wanted to fight again, but he managed to calm himself down after thinking about it. With a cold hum, he also retreated. When he reached the ground, he got in the car directly. "Go back." Under everyone's gazes, the Liu family slowly retreated, leaving the broken gate of the Zi family. "Let's go back." Zhang Wenyu looked at Su Long and the others, and then talked to Gaik Kong. Together with Chen Chengqing, the three of them went directly back to the dining hall. Su Long, the leader of the local soul group, felt a numbness in his scalp. He had also heard the conversation between the two people in the sky before. Is this the beginning of the battle? Do people in the Heavenly Knights sect want a conflict with our own martial arts world? What can we do? Alas, I hope it doesn't affect our other families. Su Long sighed slightly. He didn't care much about the safety of the Liu family, because Liu Kong was a traitor and loved to tell lies. Even if the whole Liu family was destroyed, it would not have a great impact on the martial arts world. But if the disciple of the Heavenly Knights sect died, he felt that there might be endless trouble. Chapter 734, The Elder was coming. In this world, no sect was purely on the side of justice. There was neither absolute good nor absolute evil, but the Heavenly Knights sect was an outstanding sect with a good reputation, and its disciples preferred the way of doing things like a hero, who would not cause any unreasonable disturbance. There were even some disciples who would like to offer a hand when they saw an injustice. Since the battle with the Wind Snow School, the power of the Heavenly Knights sect had stopped rising. Until then, the once domineering Heavenly Knights sect had also declined to become one of the top sects, instead of being the one at the peak. What made Su Long feel things were troublesome was that the people of the Heavenly Knights sect were united. There were also disputes within the sect, such as the constant struggles between the South and North Mountain, but they were always united when facing outside enemies. This was also the reason why the Heavenly Knights sect was still unmoved after decades of wars. Perhaps it had been the hatred among the senior leaders at the beginning, but it had completely transformed into the hatred of all the sect members. They would definitely fight whenever they met. The prospect of facing this kind of force that could not be defeated after decades of battle, Su Long couldn't help feeling worried. Why did they provoke the Heavenly Knights sect? After Su Long got in the car and left, he looked out through the window, and while he struggled to calm down, just because it is far from the center of power, the Heavenly Knights sect is located in the Cultivation World. With the existence of the Wind Snow School, they do not dare to act recklessly, but this isn't an excuse to provoke the Heavenly Knights sect, is it? Suddenly, he thought of a possibility and narrowed his eyes in astonishment. The Liu family wants to join hands with the Wind Snow School? This. Su Long's face darkened. He had once heard that there was a talented man among the relatives of the Liu family, who became a protected disciple of the Wind Snow School. They contacted each other every few years. Moreover, an old man of the Liu family once said that there would be a day when they might be able to find a place in the Wind Snow School. But at that time, Liu Kong was only at the peak stage of the God Realm, and he would become a disciple when he joined the Wind Snow School. He had finally reached the Heaven Realm and would surely find a good position there. At the thought of this, Su Long said seriously, I think, if that's the case, Liu Kong will surely kill them. As a Green Hand warrior at the Heaven Realm, it would be a great achievement for him to kill an Earth Peak stage disciple of the Heavenly Knights sect. Hiss. Su Long couldn't stop gasping in fear. He quickly said to the co-pilot, issue the Red Realm order quickly, before 22 o'clock, evacuate all the citizens within 1 kilometer radius near the Zi family. His words scared the two Divine Realm martial artists riding the car. What is he doing? They were at a loss when they learned what Su Long was thinking. Go and ask Lord Wang to come out and look for help. We have to guard against this and prevent them from making too much trouble in the city. One of them said seriously. If it were a fight between the sects in the mountain, they would act as onlookers or even ignore the situation altogether, but the battle would take place in the urban area, and their nerves were straining by them. He thought, when I go back, I will go and invite Lord Wang myself. The Lord Wang they mentioned was an official martial artist at the Middle Heaven Realm. With the opening of the worldlet, some of the truly strong martial artists had joined their spirit group. Although they couldn't compete with the first-line sect, they had the right to determine some things at the moment. As a matter of fact, the situation was similar to what Su Long had imagined. As a group leader, Su Long did not make a blind guess, but drew a conclusion based on various factors. Obviously, his conclusions were correct. After the Lius returned to their mansion, they went to the hall. It was a bit depressing. Their patriarch died, and 7 senior officials had been seriously injured. The other party was still intact, except for the loss of a manor gate. They were reluctant to accept it. They felt quite subdued. Liu Kong could see that, but he didn't say anything and his face was darkened. 1 minute later, the dark-skinned old man asked, Elder brother, what shall we do about this? Do we have to swallow our anger since we're dealing with a disciple of the Heavenly Knight sect? Hee, when did I say we should bear this? Liu Kong suddenly sneered. Do you know who fought with me today? As soon as this statement was made, the others were excited yet puzzled. Another aged man asked in confusion, isn't he Zhang Wangyu, the famous Lord of Battle in the Huan Nation from more than 10 years ago? At that time, even the Grand Masters were rarely seen, and his strength didn't match his current reputation. Although his strength has improved a little faster now, he still can't defeat our elder brother. I have to say that all of us have indeed heard of Zhang Wengyu's name, the Lord of Battle. He has been very successful. A lot of people said what they thought. Liu Kong sat in his seat and listened without interrupting them. It was not until all the people had stopped talking to look at him that he laughed. Zhang Wengyu, he's not only a disciple of the Heavenly Knights sect, but also, he is the young master of the Heavenly Knights sect. His father is Xuanhuan. It can be said that the whole Heavenly Knights sect belongs to him. Boom. A thunderous sound reverberated in everyone's mind. Many martial arts masters were trembling. They didn't expect to hear such shocking news. My God, he is the young master of Heavenly Knights sect, and we can't afford to offend him. He said we must leave before midnight. What are we waiting for? We have to run away, or it will be too late when someone from the Heavenly Knights sect come to punish us, a martial arts grandmaster said in horror. Many people from the Liu family were flustered. Liu Kong frowned and snorted, a bunch of rubbish. His swearing voice instantly shocked those who were in a panic. They quickly lowered their heads and sat in silence. Then they remembered that it was not the time to despair. Liu Kong, the elder, was still there, and they needed more suggestions. Elder brother, you knew that he was the young master of the Heavenly Knights sect. Why do you want to fight with him? Asked the old man, who was slightly dark. This question made the eyes of all the people present lock onto LV Kong. Is there any secret in this? Ha ha. Liu Kong laughed. The Heavenly Knights sect is powerful, but Zhang Wangyu hasn't reached the heaven realm yet, and he can't cause a lot of trouble by himself. Moreover, given his status as the young master of Heavenly Knights sect, he still looked down on us and dares to go out to work alone. I didn't expect that Zhang Han was Zhang Wengyu's son, and that he could invite Zhang Wengyu. It's a great opportunity. Did you forget the Wind Snow School? Liu Fang studies at the Wind Snow School. With his leadership and my breakthrough in nature, our Liu family will get a place in the Wind Snow School. By then, we will have countless martial arts resources. Most importantly, Zhang Wengyu will have to die. Liu Kong's eyes were covered with cold light, and his voice made people feel cold. With his head in our hands, we will be regarded as great meritorious officials in the Feng Su Pavilion. Shiki. Yes. You, go to Mount Nan and ask Liu Qiang to come here for a talk. Yes. Third brother. Yes. You, go to Yunfeng Lake and invite EGH. Liu Zanfeng, go to Dongxin Manor and invite Bai Aifeng. Liu Mang, go to the Nanma Slope and invite Ge Sanming. Yes. Several orders were issued, and the whole Liu family was excited with the opportunity for their family to rise. Zhang Wengyu can't escape tonight. He was determined to fight. His hands trembled with excitement. After all, he was the young master of the Heavenly Knights sect. As long as he gave the order, someone would make a move to destroy the Liu family. But, look at yourself now. If you stay here alone and face me, you will only die. He believed that Zhang Wengyu didn't bring anyone with him. Even if he brought the disciples of Heavenly Knights sect with him, they wouldn't be very powerful. Otherwise, Liu Kong wouldn't have fought with Zhang Wengyu in person in the previous battle. LV Kong thought it was his chance. He didn't want to delay. It was dark and windy tonight, so he thought it was a good time to do it. Perhaps he also knew that Zhang Wengyu might call for help, but his helpers were tens of thousands of miles away. How could they come here in a few hours? I'm afraid that the Zi family is still celebrating. Liu Kong burst out laughing. The truth was almost the same as he said. The gate of the Zi family was being urgently handled, and the atmosphere in the dining room had changed from depression at the beginning to happiness. The thick dark clouds above dissipated, although there was a heavy rain. The atmosphere was still lively with the return of Zhang Wengyu. Zhang Han secretly made a gesture of praise to his father, which made Zhang Wengyu laugh. I'm a father, of course I'm good at fighting. Thinking of this, the smile on his face deepened. Grandpa, why are you not wet? It was raining heavily just now. Meng Meng glanced at Zhang Wengyu and asked curiously. What? Well, Grandpa was taking shelter from the rain just now, so I didn't get wet. With a smile, Zhang Wengyu reached out his hand and gently scratched Meng Meng's pink face. Meng Meng is so kind. Grandpa went out for a while, and you began to worry about me, eh? The little princess was confused. I'm not worrying about you. Zhang Wengyu felt embarrassed. He didn't know whether to cry or to laugh. Puff. Sitting on the left side of Meng Meng, Ziyan couldn't help laughing. She felt it improper, so she held back her laughter and blinked her big eyes, feeling it very interesting. Ha ha ha. Zhang Han laughed brightly and said, Dad, it's a long way to go to make Meng care about you. Alas. Zhang Wenyu smiled and sighed. Somehow, he didn't feel disappointed when he knew that Hans and Stephanie couldn't have a second child. Instead, he found that he had a better feeling for Meng. No matter whether Meng liked him or not, he adored her. As a result, after dinner, Zhang Wenyu didn't talk much with others, but concentrated on making fun of Meng with Zhang Han. Rong Jiali was chatting with Xian. It was not until 8 o'clock in the afternoon that the Liang family members said goodbye enthusiastically. Zhang Wenyu, Rong Jiali and Zhang Li all came to the villa of Zhang Han. Of course, there were also Ziqiang and Xixiniu who had just been forced to sober up. They had a good time and chatted until 9:30 p.m. Meng was a little tired after playing all day. Generally, when the child was sleepy, the husband would ask his wife to go to sleep with the child first, and then he continued to accompany the guests. However, it was like this for Zhang Han. Meng is sleepy, we are going to sleep, shall we talk tomorrow? Okay, tomorrow. Others, of course, had no objection. Less than 5 minutes after the guests left, the family of 3 lay in the big bed. Zhang Han gently told the story of the King of Dwarves adventure, and Meng enjoyed it so much. Before he fell asleep, Zhang Han turned his gaze to the outside. Outside the window, 4 figures flashed past. When his soul sense came out, Zhang Han could not help but smile. Dong Chen was coming. He was the leader, and there was no doubt about the results of their trip. The Liu family. They were going to face the famous Grand Elder of Heavenly Knights sect. Chapter 735. Who were they trying to kill? Zhang Han did not care much about the outcome of the LV family and any other matters. In fact, he had found that almost all the people living within kilometers of the Zi family had been evacuated. There must have been a lot of complaints. However, the official announcement about the gas leakage was effective as everyone cherished their lives, but there would always be someone who was keen to walk on the road of death. They thought they were smart, but they were not aware just how powerful their enemy was. Was the ignorant not guilty? They could be innocent, but there would always be a price, which might be their lives. Zhang Wenyu's return made Zhang Han an idle man. It seems that I don't have to handle anything for the time being, Zhang Han thought, smiling and looking at Xian tenderly, and finally fixed his gaze on Meng's delicate face. After the beginning of the new semester, she will go to the middle class. Without thinking about it, a year has passed and Meng will soon be 5 years old. How fast time flies. If there is no dispute, it's good to accompany Meng and watch her grow up peacefully and happily. Both mother and daughter were asleep and breathing steadily. Zhang Han turned to look at Meng and could not seem to get enough of her. He did not care about the LV family, but what should happen will eventually happen. Just like what happened before, when Zhang Han found that the officials had dispersed the residents nearby. He expected that the LV family would attack them again tonight and LV Kong would not be alone. He told Zhang Guangyu, and his father replied with a confident smile. Oh, it turned out that he had already informed Grand Elder. The martial artists at Heaven Peak stage were the most powerful fighters in the world and it was difficult for them to die. Normally, every martial artist at Heaven Peak stage had their own trump card and they even had some secret methods to escape. In this world, few people could kill their opponents at Heaven Peak stage during a one-on-one battle. For example, Zhang Wang of Heavenly Knights sect and the leader of Wind Snow School had experienced dozens of fierce battles, but no one was the victor each time. Now, Zhang Han knew that they might have gone to the Kunlun Immortal World for further competition, which was so funny. It was 11 o'clock in the evening and the LV family's manor was bustling with activity. On the circular square inches front of the main house, there were tables surrounded by several grills. The LVS were enjoying roasted whole sheep, wine and other delicious dishes. All the martial artists from the LV clan were here, eating meat and drinking wine. After all, They were going to fight soon, and many family members below the level of Chi Strength Master were discussing about it. Our elder once said that he wanted to destroy the Zi family. It has been many years since we did such a big thing. We have the strength to become the most important family, but we have not achieved this goal yet, which is due to the closed gate of the small world. Now the gate is open and it's time for us to show off. It's so awesome. I have goosebumps all over my body just thinking about it. I heard that our opponent is also very powerful. There is a cultivator at Earth Realm, and it seems that we will be facing a fierce battle tonight. Bullshit. Our elder is invincible and Heaven Realm is invincible. Why should we be afraid of someone at Earth Realm? And I heard that the elder has called in several old friends. Hiss. Look, Lu Qiang is coming from Mount Fengnan. Suddenly, the people looked over and saw a group of 5 striding toward them from the edge of the square. The head of the group was a tall and strong man. When he saw LV Kong, he laughed and said, "The world lit has opened and Brother LV is back. I have been so busy recently that I have not visited you yet. I did not expect that Brother LV would contact me. I'm really ashamed. It doesn't matter." With a smile, LV Kong said, "You are my friend, so we do not need to be so polite to each other. Please take your seat." Lu Qiang and the other 4 sat at the table. Apart from them, there were only LV Kong and the other 2 elders of the LV clan. On the table, there were 2 roast mutton legs which had been marinated with chili sauce and some liquor and gave off an aromatic flavor. These were all very simple food. Without any hesitation, Lu Qiang directly tore off a large piece of meat, took a few bites, swallowed and then drank a large mouthful of liquor. After a habitual he laughed and said, "I'm also interested in what Brother LV said. It's said that wins no school will give." This sentence had an underlying reminder. There was no one who would work for nothing, not to mention the risk of offending Heavenly Knight's sect. LV Kong heard these words and a trace of unhappiness flashed through his eyes, but he was still smiling outwardly. "Brother Lu, don't worry, you will have a share of the reward," he said. "Brother LV, you are welcome, ha ha ha." Lu Qiang burst out laughing. While they were chatting, the younger members of the LV family were talking about it, one after another. Lu Qiang of Mount Fengnan has reached Earth Peak stage at the same time as our elder. Now it is our elder who has taken the first step to become a Heaven Realm Master. This time, we not only invited Master Lu, but also He Jiaqing from Lake Yanfeng, who is also a strong man at Earth Peak stage. My elder brother Lu Zanfeng went to Dongxin Manor to invite Bai Feng, who has been in Earth Peak stage for 30 years. The last one, Ge Sanming of Manan Hill, is also a famous martial artist who has been in Heaven early stage for more than 10 years. He is especially strong. Now we have 2 Heaven state strongs and 3 masters at Earth Peak stage, and together they must be invincible. Yes, they are all strong men and we have never seen them before because we are not qualified, but now, they all came to cooperate with the LV family, because our elder has reached Heaven Realm. As soon as you reach Heaven stage, you will be a lord. This is true, just like the land gods. The Heaven state strongs. Are all extremely terrifying. There's someone at Heaven Realm in the LV family, SHH, keep it down. Master He and Master Bai are here. Among them, many ordinary senior leaders of the LV family were talking about these things. For them, it was a great proof that the LV family would surely rise since there were so many giants here this night. Under their gazes, He Jiaqing and Bai Feng came in together. They were both alone without their men following them. They met at the door and entered together. Congratulations, Elder LV. Elder Brother LV, you are the first one among us to break through. I, Bai Feng, admire you so much. Brother He and Brother Bai, you are welcome. Please take your seat. Okay. Both of them sat at the dining table. While He Jiaqing started eating mutton with his hands, Bai Feng just drank and had no intention of eating meat. Why are you not eating the meat? Don't you want a piece of the pie? LV Kong looked at Bai Feng meaningfully. The others also turned their gazes on Bai Feng. Brother Bai, LV Kong was about to say something. Suddenly a chuckle came from the air in the distance. "It's so noisy here." Clatter. The three men at Earth Peak stage, including Lu Qiang, He Jiaqing and Bai Feng and the other two men at Divine Realm in the LV family, stood up to welcome the new guest. Gu Sanming of Manan Hill, the famous Heaven State strong martial artist, had arrived. "Welcome, Brother Gu." Looking at the white-haired yet childlike man falling from the air, LV Kong warmly welcomed him. "Brother Gu, please have a seat." "Master Gu." Several other martial artists also greeted him. Although LV Kong had made a breakthrough, there was still a little distance between him and the top-level circle of the Singapore martial arts world. Gu Sanming was different. He was in a really high position and knew the two aged monsters at the last stage of Heaven Realm. It was amazing. "You really broke through." Gu Sanming looked at LV Kong casually, then he sat down and waved his hand. "Please sit down." Judging from his tone and manner, it seemed as if he was at home. LV Kong did not have the slightest dissatisfaction and just nodded. After taking a seat, Gu Sanming picked up a fork and cut off a piece of meat from the llama leg. Instead of eating the meat, he just looked at it. 3 seconds later, he looked at LV Kong and said with a smile, "I have considered what you said. While you want fame, I want profit, that is, 90% of Wind Snow School's reward." Treasures were attractive to most people, including Gu Sanming. As soon as this was said, the faces of the others darkened, but they soon calmed down. Gu Sanming was always greedy and no one would not get more benefit when cooperating with him, but it was better than none, because it was Wind Snow School's reward after all. "Okay." LV Kong agreed very happily, without any hesitation. But no one knew what he was thinking about. He was going to lead his family to Wind Snow School and Gu Sanming would soon be of no use. Gu Sanming did not know this. He had never heard of the deal between the LV family and Wind Snow School. He thought that LV Kong would be afraid of him. 7 days ago, I fought with someone in Anu and was seriously hurt. Bai Feng stood up with a glass of wine in his hand and said calmly, "This time, I just want to visit Brother LV and Elder Gu. Now I am satisfied. As for this matter, there is no difference whether I'm here or not, so I will leave first. When my injury is healed, I will come back and help you as long as you need me." Bai Feng drank a glass of white wine. LV Kong did not care. He waved his hand. "Since you are injured, go back and have a rest." "Okay." Gu Sanming nodded lightly. The others did not really care if he was there or not. Bai Feng smiled and turned to leave. His injury was real, but not serious. The main reason was that the 10% reward was not attractive to him. Furthermore, he was tired of the intrigue between these aged guys. Bai Feng left. The rest of the crowd chatted together. With the arrival of the giants, all the low-level martial artists and some high-level officials of the LV family did not dare to speak loudly. Their voices were very low, for fear of disturbing the conversation of the giants. In less than 5 minutes, it was almost 11:20 in the evening. Gu Sanming put down his fork and casually took the handkerchief on the table. As he wiped his hands, he said, "After my business is over, I'll have a meal." "That's good." LV Kong immediately nodded and said with a smile, "I sent someone to check out the situation. They are all in the Zi family's manor. I think that after today, the young master of Heavenly Knights sect, Zhang Han Yang, Emperor King, Gaik Kong and even the Zi family's manor will not exist anymore." He was going to cut their roots. He wanted to destroy them totally. "Oh?" Gu Sanming raised his eyebrows. "You're a little savage, but I like it." He deliberately paused in the middle of his speech to make He Jiaqing and Lu Qiang laugh. Lu Qiang said, "It should be. They think that they can do whatever they want since they have the backing from Hua Nation. They are all fools. What can several Divine Realm helpers do?" He Jiaqing shook his head slightly. "We must kill Zhang Wangyu, the young master of Heavenly Knights sect. His head is valuable and the Zi family is only incidental. We can use it to warn the family that the great power is still within our grasp." Everyone in the LV family was very excited with the feeling that the LV family would rise and become the peak force after today. However, when they were celebrating in advance, a sentence uttered in a very cold tone seemed to echo from the distant sky. "Who are you going to kill?" Chapter 736, Raised to the Ground. What? Everyone raised their heads. When they saw a clear view of the scene above, most of them could not help but gasp in astonishment. They are coming. All the Grand Masters of the LV family had seen the men in the sky. They were Emperor King, Gai Xingkong and Zhang Wangyu. But, who was the old man beside them? How dare they bring helpers here before I even go to their place? LV Kong frowned. The young master of Heavenly Knights sect. When he heard Zhang Wengyu's words, a trace of fear flashed through LV Kong's eyes. Did he contact the higher-level masters in his sect? They would not have enough time. Did he contact someone after the LV family paid them a visit at noon? Hiss. All of a sudden, LV Kong felt a little flustered. His muscles tensed as he readied himself to deal with any kind of situation at any moment with his spiritual force. Zhang Guangyu. With a serious look on his face, he called out Zhang Guangyu's name, but did not say anything else. Lu Qiang was stunned. He was not expecting them to turn up at all. Even Ge Sanming was surprised. How dare you come here? How will I know what your plans are if I don't come? Zhang Guangyu sneered. Yes, my head is valuable. I'm Zhang Guangyu. Don't you want to kill me? Come on, you. Ge Sanming was annoyed. He wanted to make a move, but he was hesitant. Then he said in a loud voice, as an elder of the LV family, I certainly will intervene because of what you did to them. Doesn't Heavenly Knights sect insist on justice? Well, let's talk about it today and I will not pursue it any further if you can convince me. It sounded as if he was intent on finding out the truth. In fact, his hand in his trouser pocket had secretly pressed a piece of copper coin the size of a fingernail. He was contacting an aged monster at the last stage of Heaven Realm. He knew two strong people at that level and one of them had a good relationship with him. Therefore, he was confident in getting a strong helper in the current situation. In fact, he firmly believed that he would certainly be able to delay the battle and wait for the arrival of the helper. After all, the style of Heavenly Knights sect has always been chivalrous. They won't. What are you? Are you qualified to question me? Zhang Guangyu said. Ge Sanming felt very confused. For a moment, he was confused. Then he flew into a rage, because no one had dared to talk to him like that for many years. Zhang Guangyu, do you really think that Heavenly Knights sect is invincible? Ge Sanming said in a sullen voice. With all due respect, you can't defeat me. How dare you speak out here? LV Kong was finally silent. He knew that the others would be unhappy if he did not open his mouth. After all, he was the one who invited all the helpers. Ha ha. Zhang Guangyu laughed and moved his right hand slightly. Gai Xingkong and Chen Chenking moved to the side, as if blocking off the retreat points of the people in the square. LV Kong's hair suddenly stood upright in fear and he felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. He had been paying attention to Dong Chen and felt that he had seen this man in several paintings. After thinking for 3 seconds, he felt his heart missing a beat. Damn it, he is the Grand Elder of Heavenly Knights sect. How could that be possible? How could he have come so soon? Is it really him? What can we do? Hiss. LV Kong felt himself sweating profusely at this time. At first, when he saw Dong Chen, he was not flustered at all, but after taking a careful look, he was scared. LV Kong struggled to keep calm so as to maintain the appearance of an experienced martial artist. Zhang Guangyu. Lu Qiang did not hide his killing intention. I heard that you are at Earth Peak stage. As it happens, I think no one can defeat me in the world. Do you dare fight with me? Zhang Guangyu did not speak. Looking at Emperor King and Gai Xingkong, LV Kong felt a little anxious. His eyebrows furrowed and he opened his fan. At the same time, his body slowly floated into the air. Since you have come to seek death, don't blame me for my cruel means. Whoosh. He turned into a ray of light and rushed very quickly toward his opponent in the sky. A fight was about to start. The people of the LV family were afraid yet excited, and they could feel their blood churning fiercely. Their elder was so powerful. It's just a trifling skill. Dong Chen sneered. His eyes were cold, his expression was calm, and his right foot stepped across the air. Boom! A dull sound was heard, which echoed all round the manor of the LV family. At the same time, waves of energy tore into LV Kong's body. Puff! He turned into a mist of blood. What? All the people of the LV family were shocked. Is the elder dead? It's impossible. Xuanhuan's face turned extremely pale and his eyes were filled with horror. This chi and pressure must belong to someone at the peak stage of Heaven Realm. We are done. Run. Xuanhuan roared with fear. When his helper came, that aged man would see that the other party was at Heaven Peak stage. He would be so angry that he could even kill LV Kong. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. They reflected very quickly and immediately turned around and fled in different directions. But just after turning their heads, their eyes were full of anger. Thousands of kilometers ahead, LV Kong's somewhat embarrassed figure could be seen flying away. LV Kong's words echoed in his mind. Since you are here to die, don't blame me for my cruel methods. What did he mean? How do you feel? He's saying that they're here to kill. His methods are very cruel. But why was he the first to flee? The one who was the first to flee died a swift death. You can't escape. Dong Chen said faintly, thrusting his right hand forward. With the energy induction of all the people, an invisible palm up to 100 meters dropped directly on the top of LV Kong's head, like a fly swatter. Bang! After a very slight sound, only a blood mist was left in that direction. LV Kong did not even have time to scream. My gosh! Lu Qiang was befuddled by the scene. His face turned pale as he could barely maintain his balance and turned his head to look at the several enemies in the air. Please, puff. Seeing Lu Qiang disappearing directly, Xuanhuan was scared and his legs weakened. Don't kill me, I'm at Heaven early stage. I'm willing to be your slave forever. I'm willing to offer all my treasures. It's useless. Dong Chen thrust again mercilessly. Xuanhuan, at Heaven early stage, felt the air around his body freeze and then found himself being squeezed. Soon he lost consciousness forever. And you? Dong Chen glanced at He Jiaqing, who was the weakest one present. Before he could beg for mercy, a blue light flashed in Dong Chen's eyes. Boom! He Jiaqing collapsed to the ground and could not breathe anymore, but at least his body remained intact. Seeing this scene, all the LV family members and the other martial artists were stunned and felt extremely terrified. Dead? Are they all dead? Their eyes were filled with incredulity since they could not believe it at all. A minute ago, they were so powerful that they wanted to sweep away the Zi family, but now, they were all dead in less than a minute. 2 Heaven Realm Masters and 2 martial artists at Earth Peak stage. What a powerful force. How could they be killed in the blink of an eye? Why? They were completely stunned and there was confusion in their eyes. They did not know what they were thinking about. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. They slowly looked up and the 4 people there were still calm. Humphrey. Dong Chen snorted and turned around. The hem of his white robe fluttered in the wind. Clatter. A strong wind blew from his clothes and formed a strong energy windstorm in a second. Let's go. Zhang Wangyu said. Then he turned around and left with Dong Chen, Gai Xingkong and Chen Chenking. When they had just left the area out of range of the LV family, kaboom! With a loud sound, many buildings belonging to the LV family crumbled into dust. In particular, the noisy square seemed to have been smashed by a giant hammer, causing rocks to fly in all directions. Dong Chen was a hero, but that did not mean he would not kill anyone. Chen Chenking silently turned around and shook his head, ignorant. Then they turned into light flashes and quickly returned to the Zi family. At this moment, the Zi family's manor was heavily guarded and many members of the spirit group were guarding the roads. The crossroad in the south was the most crowded. A dozen people were standing on the side of the cordon, chatting with each other. If the Zi family is destroyed, it will cause a sensation. It's a pity. They should not have offended the LV family at this time. LV Kong has just broken through to innateness and he is looking for a chance to show off. However, the Zi family insists on colliding with the muzzle of his spear. What a pity. That's not the case. Do you believe that the LV family will let them go even after the Zi family has satisfied their demands? I'm afraid that the Zi family will face continuous repression. They are backed by Zhang Han Yang and Emperor King, who used to be really fierce before. But if LV Kong brings someone here tonight, maybe the Zi family will. Boom. Suddenly, they heard a dull sound, like an earthquake. What's going on? They were all shocked. What happened there? Isn't the LV family home over there? I don't know what's going on, but Lord Wang is here. We don't need to worry about it. Wait, Lord Wang and the group leader have left. Suddenly, they saw a few figures flying swiftly over their heads and disappearing in the air. They were confused. But the next second, there was a scream from the intercom. Hurry up. Go to the LV family. Cordon off the area within 1,000 meters around the LV family home. Wait, what's the matter? I just heard that the LV family home has been razed to the ground. What did you say? In an instant, these people were shocked and rushed toward the LV family home. How did they get the news so soon? Because in midair near the LV family, a shivering figure was there. It was he who informed Xulong. He was Bai Feng, the one who had left earlier. His face was bloodless and his voice trembled. This is too terrifying. The one who killed a Heaven Realm Master in a second must be a powerful martial artist at Heaven Peak stage. If I left 2 minutes later, then, of course he knew the consequences. Perhaps if he had stayed on, he would also be the victim of Dong Chen's slap. Chapter 737, Behave Yourself. Bai Feng looked at the rest of the LV family, which was thriving just moments ago, but was now in ruins. He did not know how to describe his current feelings. Emotional, confused? No. He began to feel extremely frightened. He did not even realize that his back was soaked through with sweat. He still had a lingering fear in his heart. He could understand the terror that life and death could be decided by a mere thought. If he had hesitated just now and continued to stay on, he would have been turned into ashes in less than a few minutes. Who did this? Suddenly, a voice full of shock sounded beside him. Bai Feng turned his head and saw an old man with a flat-top haircut, Xulong and some others standing next to him. They looked pale. Mr. Wang. Bai Feng took a deep breath and said, I saw an image from a distance. It was a man in a long robe who attacked He Jiaqing, Lu Qiang, LV Kong and even Ge Sanming. He was strong and powerful enough to destroy the world. He killed all of them by using a very common movement of his palm. These people could not even escape. What are you talking about? The old man with the flat-top haircut surnamed Wang narrowed his eyes and said in horror, even Ge Sanming, are they all dead? Absolutely true. Bai Feng said bitterly, if I had left a few minutes later, I'm afraid I would have become a pile of bones. Hiss. Xulong felt a chill running down his spine. He can kill them at will. I'm afraid that he is at the late stage or at the peak stage. What's going on? LV Kong invited us here to kill Zhang Guangyu, the young master of the Heavenly Knights sect. He promised us that Zhang Guangyu would be alone, which was indeed a rare chance for us. I have not recovered from my injury and I also think LV Kong was planning something else. So I came over to say hello and then left. I was not too far away when I heard the commotion here. I came over quickly and saw their fight. Bai Feng answered slowly. The young master of the Heavenly Knights sect? Xulong's facial expression changed. The Zi clan. Is he the big man who came to meet with the Zi clan in Singapore this time? Zhang Han Yang, Zhang Guangyu. Oh my god, Zhang Guangyu is the young master of Heavenly Knights sect. Zhang Han Yang is his son, Humphrey. The old man with the flat-top haircut suddenly snorted and said, they deserve to die. They actually wanted the head of the young master of Heavenly Knights sect. They deserve more than death. The LV family also implicated others, so even death cannot atone for their crimes. Su Long, get someone to clean up this place and appease the surrounding residents. Yes, sir. As soon as he finished speaking, the old man with the flat-top haircut shifted and left quickly. Su Long and his companions were left, with wry smiles on their faces. Don't talk randomly about that fact that the young master of Heavenly Knights sect was here. Su Long sighed softly and said, their deaths have greatly reduced the number of high-end masters in our local martial arts world. If a few more were to die, we will no longer have a foothold. Well, let's deal with the follow-up matters. Although they did not make it known, the news of the doom of the LV family, as well as the four masters' deaths, such as Xuanhuan and LV Kong, spread widely in the dark night. Upon hearing the news, everyone was shocked for a long time. Is Xuanhuan dead? Really? Many people could not believe it, but the information came from the spirit group. I heard from one of my good friends in the spirit group that they provoked someone they should not have provoked. They did not say the person's name, but the LV family targeted the Zhi family and at noon sent more than a dozen seniors who all died finally. Did they provoke the Zhi family? But the Zhi family does not have the ability to destroy the LV family. Wait, is it Zhang Han? It is said that he accompanied his family to have a discussion with the Zhi family and wanted to hold a grand wedding for Xian and himself. It could not be Zhang Han only. He is at best in the divine realm. How could he be so powerful? I heard that LV Kong provoked the people of the Heavenly Knights sect, but it has something to do with the Zhi family and Zhang Han, Xian's father-in-law, who is Zhang Han's father, is suspected to be from the Heavenly Knights sect. It's really big news. I can't imagine it. Don't you have a good relationship with Patriarch Liang? They are going to the Zhi family tonight. You can inquire about it. For a time, many rumors were heard from all over the local martial arts world, and this matter also became the focus topic of the people. The ones in the heaven realm and the earth realm were the big shots that many people had never seen in their lives. They did not expect the four of them to die this night. Even when the Zhi family and the Liang family heard the news, they were in a daze, too. Really? Ziqiang was woken up as soon as he fell asleep. Zilong, Zihu and the others were in the conference room of his villa. Upon hearing the news, Ziqiang became even dizzier. Are my in-laws so powerful? It also has something to do with our family. After all, the LV family was against us from the beginning. Han's father is right. Xian is our little princess, and although there were some unpleasant conflicts or misunderstanding between us, it was all in the past. Now our relationship has been eased, and we also know Xian did not blame us, so we have to face. Zilong shook his head repeatedly, frequently sighing. In the end, he said in a firm tone, the Wind Snow School, Mr. Zhang is the young master of the Heavenly Knights sect. Definitely, the Wind Snow School will always target him. Sir, think about it. If the people of the Wind Snow School know that Zhang Guangyu's daughter-in-law is from the Zhi family, will they capture the Zhi family and threaten the Heavenly Knights sect? Maybe. Ziqiang touched his forehead. Why did they feel that something was not quite right? The battle between the Heavenly Knights sect and the Wind Snow School is very fierce. High-end martial artists will not always be on guard here. Even if they send someone here, the consequences will be unimaginably terrible if the Wind Snow School wants to target us. Zilong's eyes flickered. Maybe it's time for us to return to the Hua Nation. The safest place is where Han stays. Return to Hua Nation? Ziqiang lowered his head and was silent for 3 seconds. Then he looked up and said with a smile, of course, I'd like to, but considering our projects and the high taxes we have to pay for leaving here, I'm afraid that our family's financial capacity will be greatly reduced. I just became the patriarch. It's not okay for me to lose so much money. This matter. Do you have anything to say? Lose money? Zihu laughed and said, King, you really don't know much about the martial arts world. The amount of money is far less than the betrothal gifts given by our in-laws. And Have you forgotten something? Zilong said meaningfully. Now, there are many experts in our family, some of them are the stronger ones who can even kill Gu Sanming. With such strong backing, don't you think there will be some room for the negotiation on projects and taxes? After finishing his speech, Zilong, Zihu and the others left. Ziking's eyes were shining. When he heard what Zilong said, he remembered a phrase, swagger about in borrowed blooms. So the next morning when they had breakfast, Ziking scooted over to Zhang Wangyu. Ahem, in-law, can you stay for a few more days? A few more days? Zhang Wangyu hesitated for a while. In fact, the situation of the Heavenly Knights sect was quite severe. The gate of the small world had just opened and everyone was learning about the situation inside. Before long, they would be caught in endless wars. How many days? Zhang Wangyu did not want to refuse the request of his in-laws, so he first asked about the situation. It would be too long if he was expected to stay for half a month. It was acceptable if it was only for 3 or 5 days. Ziking replied, 3 days. Okay. After Zhang Wangyu nodded, Ziking also smiled. We have decided to move to Hong Kong. As long as you're here, the Zi family will suffer fewer losses. There was no doubt at all that if the Zi family moved, it would take at least a few months, instead of merely 3 days, to hand over the matters. However, it would only take a few days to negotiate on the matters. The major problems were the 3 projects they had just obtained and invested in, as well as the official approval. Even if things went smoothly, it would result in less loss. So after breakfast, Ziking went out with a group of high-level members of the Zi family. Unexpectedly, everything went very smoothly. It seemed that some people were very willing to see the Zi family move, or they wanted to drive them away. In the course of a single day, all the important things were settled. In exchange, Ziking also sold many common assets at a much lower price and was now too tired to sign any more contracts for the handing over of the projects. The next day, all the high-level members of the Zi family were ready to leave, leaving only a few people to deal with the aftermath, including selling the manor of the Zi family and the other companies. On the 3rd day, they got on the plane and went to Hong Kong. They arrived at noon. Because Zhang Han's villa was big enough, they all settled into Mount New Moon and then sent a group of people, who were led by Zhao Feng, to find some land or office buildings. They still needed to run the companies. The arrival of the Zi family made the Minister of Business of Hong Kong laugh so hard that his mouth could not close. He claimed that General Zhang had helped him to attract a lot of business giants to Hong Kong in less than a year. After returning to Mount New Moon, Zhang Han counted the days and thought that in less than 5 days, the Wind Snow School in the Cultivation World should almost be ready. Zhang Han planned to accompany Meng and Ziyan in the coming days. The laughter of the family of 3 spread throughout Mount New Moon. Once again, they went to Disneyland, Ocean Park and the Children's Park. They took cruises and rode the waves. Of course, they would have to surf. Zhang Han held Ziyan and Meng in his arms. They were playing happily and having a pleasant time. Finally, on the 4th day, Zhang Han and Zhang Guangyu were drinking tea in the pavilion beside the Thunder Yang tree. Dong Chen came and sat next to Zhang Guangyu, frowned and looked at Zhang Han unhappily. He didn't care about Zhang Han's feelings at all and scolded him directly. Zhang Han, I was surprised when I came up the mountain. It has divine objects and holy objects. It is indeed a land filled with treasures. As I said before, cultivation is like a boat going against the current. If you don't advance, you will retreat. I thought you were an ambitious person, but I didn't expect you to have some misconception about cultivation. Do you think you are safe and that is why you are out all day long? Do you think you can have fun as long as you have the Heavenly Knights sect as a backing? You are Zhang Guangyu's son and you are destined to live in the turbulence. If you go on like this, you will be killed by an ordinary disciple of the Wind Snow School, let alone being able to develop your skills. Dong Chen's tone was very severe and there was a trace of anger in his eyes. Zhang Han was stunned. Has this guy been taking drugs? Zhang Guangyu did not know whether to laugh or cry. His eyelids quivered a few times, then he quickly said, Han, Uncle Dong is your grandfather's comrade and they used to fight with each other. He is very nice. Uncle Dong, Han is very strong and he also works hard. I don't think Uncle Dong has much understanding of cultivation. Zhang Han still respected him. If it had been someone else who shouted in front of him, he would have slapped him, although he did not have the strength now. So Zhang Han also responded, cultivation is not a closed-door training, just like you now, you are stuck at the Heaven Peak stage. No matter how hard you cultivate, you can't make any progress, it's because you have not found the right way. Oh, easier said than done. Don't forget that you're not even in the divine realm. Strength is the foundation. Dong Chen raised his eyebrows. He was a little surprised, but he did not believe Zhang Han's words. He was not interested in saying any more because Zhang Han was not his biological descendant after all. If Zhang Han was, he would have used his fists on him. So Dong Chen stood up and departed with this speech. Your grandfather is talented and famous all over the world. Zhang Wangyu has lost half of his reputation. I don't want you to lose the other half. You'd better watch yourself. Chapter 738, the third generation of the martial arts family. Zhang Wangyu felt extremely confused. What does he mean? How come I've already lost half of my father's reputation? Does Uncle Dong usually think of me in that way? Zhang Wangyu felt a little dizzy. Even he was scolded. Did he do anything wrong? However, Zhang Wangyu was used to it. The Grand Elder had always been strict. Then he looked at his son out of the corner of his eye. Zhang Wangyu did not say anything about Zhang Han's incredible martial arts heritage of predecessors for the time being. He wanted to see if Zhang Han was proud. However, Zhang Han did not know whether to laugh or cry. He remembered that the last time someone reprimanded him was during the 300th year of the Cultivation World. Zhang Wangyu asked, Han, you've got an incredible martial arts heritage of predecessors. The first elder's words may not be very accurate about you. Don't you mind? Every talent was proud, so was he. Zhang Wangyu sighed silently. Hearing his father's words, Zhang Han paused for 2 seconds before he said slowly, all those who spoke to me in that manner in the past, are all dead. But he's different, because of his relationship with you. Zhang Han smiled and looked at Xian and Meng, who were playing in the pet area of the back mountain. I don't care about much in this world. What do other people's thoughts of me have to do with me? I only care about you. His words warmed Zhang Wengyu's heart. He patted Zhang Han on the shoulder and said gently, good boy. If your grandfather saw you, he would definitely be proud of you. I don't know how wonderful the inheritance you got is, but I know that people who can live for 500 years are beyond my imagination. I also know that the tribulation stage you mentioned is at the 9th stage, which is much more than I know. If it is true, it is too high-end. But we can slowly understand these in the future. We still have time. If your grandfather knows about this, he will be proud of you. My grandfather? Zhang Han pursed his lips and said, to be honest, I feel that even though we are related by blood, I have no feelings for him because I've never met him. Of course, Meng is an exception. He still remembered that when he met Meng, his love for her rose linearly. Maybe he would feel the same way when he saw his grandfather, but Zhang Han absolutely did not think it would be the same as when he saw his daughter. However, he did not expect that Zhang Guangyu would answer him with a question that surprised him after a moment's hesitation. You said you have not met your grandpa. Zhang Han was stunned. When did I see him? I forgot about it. I'm so stupid. Zhang Guangyu patted his forehead and looked at Zhang Li, who was sitting next to Liang Hao and drinking juice. Zhang Li, come here. The two of them turned their heads and looked at each other, then both of them got up and came over. Liang Hao, just stay there for a while, we have something private to talk about. Okay, Uncle Zhang. Liang Hao nodded quickly and sat back down. In his heart, he could not help but laugh bitterly. It seems that I have much to do before getting the approval of my father-in-law. Zhang Li came over with a cup of juice and sat beside Zhang Guangyu casually. "What's the matter? I just thought of something I forgot to mention to both of you." Zhang Guangyu coughed and said, "I talked with your brother about your grandfather just now. He said that he didn't have any impression of your grandfather. I replied that you have met him before." "Grandpa, we saw him? How is it possible?" Zhang Li's eyes widened. "Dad, are you getting old and muddled? Would we not remember if we have seen him before? Old and muddled? Do you want a spanking?" Zhang Guangyu glared at her. Of course, he was just joking and was surely unwilling to beat her. After saying that, Zhang Guangyu smiled a mysterious smile. He took a look at Zhang Han and then at Zhang Li. After repeating the action for 5 seconds, he slowly said, "In fact, you have met your grandpa long time ago, when you were young, in the hidden dragon village. Elder Mu, who lived next door, is your grandpa." Zhang Han's eyes lit up. "What?" Zhang Li even let out an awful cry and could not believe it. "Is Elder Mu our grandpa? How could he be our grandpa? Why didn't you say that before?" "I didn't mention it before because your grandfather is famous as Zhang Wang. His real name is Zhang Mu. You also know that our deadly enemy is Wind Snow School. They're very strong. In this world, people in the divine realm have ways to pry into the memories of ordinary people and even of some strong ones. You were very young at that time. If someone wanted to probe your memories and found out your identity, then you, as well as your mother and many others would be implicated. But he still wanted to spend a limited amount of time with you, so he had to disguise himself as an ordinary Elder Mu and settle in the hidden dragon village. Once he had time, he would go there. That's why I often took you to the countryside at an early age." Zhang Guangyu answered. All of a sudden, Zhang Han fell silent. It was no wonder that Elder Mu always looked at him and Lili with eyes filled with kindness. It was no wonder that every time his family went to the countryside, he would personally cook many delicious dishes. It's no wonder. Scenes flashed across Zhang Han's mind. It turned out that he was their grandfather, Zhang Mu, Zhang Xuanhuan. They had already met each other a long time ago. Zhang Han sighed in his heart. This seemed to be the farthest distance that people often talked about. The one was standing in front of them, but they did not acknowledge him. In the past, I did not expect that these things would be so complicated. Zhang Han shook his head and said, "It's because he had no choice." Zhang Guangyu looked gloomy. He always wanted to hear you call him grandpa, but he never had the chance. I don't know if he will be able to hear it in the future. Grandpa, grandpa. Women were emotional, although Zhang Li was still a girl now. As soon as she heard that, her eyes turned red. "Well, let's stop talking about this. It will happen if it is fated to happen. Your grandfather also obtained a lot in the martial arts by chance, so he won't die so easily. Call him grandpa when you meet him." Zhang Guangyu smiled and looked at Zhang Han again. "I may be busy in a few days. I just learned that the first elder of the main sect of the Wind Snow School led his men to the Cultivation World. This time, there will be several great battles involved with a large number of people. I'll ask Uncle Dong to protect you here. You've also been to the Heavenly Knights sect. They can't break into the Double Dragon formation. Nothing is absolute in the world. Our Heaven-Earth formation is very powerful, but I have nearly 100 ways to crack it," Zhang Han said lightly. "Huh?" Zhang Guangyu was stunned. "What are you talking about? The Heaven-Earth formation is perfect. It can't be broken unless by remarkable power." "Ha!" Zhang Han shook his head in amusement and said, "Dad, you are too confident, aren't you? I mean, with my current strength, I have 100 ways to crack it. If I break through to the innateness stage, the ways will be multiplied by 10 times. Seeing Zhang Guangyu's expression of disbelief, Zhang Han added, "Since you don't believe me, I'll tell you in detail. The so-called Double Dragon formation just learned something from the top-class Heaven-Earth formation. Its real name is Yin-Yang Double Dragon Heaven formation. The dragon represents the sun while the water represents the moon. The dragon lives in the water, which means there is harmony between yin and yang, so everything will be safe and steady. If the dragon rushes out of the water, the power of yin will be overwhelming and unmatchable. The formation of Heavenly Knights sect exactly adopts that of the double dragons rushing out of water. However, the energy under the dragon's claws must be integrated, which corresponds to the water of yin. Yin and yang help each other, so it can be more powerful. This is the main formation. There are also 108 formations attached to it in total. I just tried to feel their existence in a short time. Approximately, maze formation takes up 30%, the same as killing formation and guarding formation, while other formations occupy 10% of the information. At this point, Zhang Guanyu looked dazed. But Zhang Han was not done yet. He added, the fastest way to break the formation is to break it from the inside out. If the dragon claws are cut off, the formation can easily be broken. As soon as he heard Zhang Han's words, Zhang Wengyu's expression changed. Hush, lower your voice. He raised his hand to create a soundproof shield and exhaled a lengthy breath. I'm scared to death. You're right, but how did you know that? Zhang Guanyu was a little confused and very frustrated. How could the secret of the peripheral formation of the Heavenly Knights sect be seen through so easily? I just saw it. Zhang Han was a little speechless and said, Dad, your opinion of me should be different from that of other strong ones in the martial arts world. Don't treat your son as a martial artist because your son is a person who tries to cultivate himself to be an immortal. Immortal. Zhang Wengyu's eyes twitched as he murmured the word. Then he closed his eyes and was silent for 5 seconds. When he opened them, there was a trace of pride inside. I see, my son is unusual, right? You can put it that way. Zhang Han said with a smile. Of course, my brother is very powerful, Dad. You may have to ask my brother to teach you how to cultivate in the future. Yes, you're right. Zhang Han agreed with them. If I don't give good things to my family, who else should I give them to? He nodded and said, it is not the right time. When I'm free after my breakthrough, I'll give Dad the best. Ha 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 ha. Zhang Wenyu suddenly laughed and said, okay, I'll be waiting for you. He was in a good mood, and this was the happiest laughter that had come from him in recent years. But there is one thing I have to solve first, Dad. As the young master of Heavenly Knights sect, you have a lot of treasures, don't you? There are some treasures in the Heavenly Knights sect. Do you want to cultivate? Zhang Guanyu asked. Yes. Zhang Han chuckled and said, it's time for cultivation. Well, since my son is going to cultivate, I must support you. Indeed, I've also felt that you're enjoying yourself too much recently. It seems that Uncle Dong's words did have some effect. It has nothing to do with him. The Heavenly Knights sect does not have what I desire for cultivation. Brat, are you belittling the Heavenly Knights sect? No. The Heavenly Knights sect doesn't really have it. Where are they? Wind Snow School. Boom. Zhang Wenyu felt dizzy again after hearing Zhang Han's words. Why the Wind Snow School? Zhang Han did not explain much and asked directly, do you have top-grade crystals? No, but I have some medium-grade crystals. I want 100 medium-grade crystals. Do you have any treasure that can be used as the formation eye? There are some formation flags of no attributes, 2 divine weapons, dozens of divine objects. The first elder occasionally studies formation skills, so he keeps all these things. I want all of them. In addition to these, are there any treasures that can break the formations? There is a divine weapon called the Heaven-Piercing Hammer. Zhang Han asked about 2 more treasures and they were all available in the Heavenly Knights sect. Then Zhang Han smiled and said, it seems that I am the 3rd generation of the martial arts family which is rich in martial arts treasures, which saves me a lot of trouble. No, son. Didn't you say that the Wind Snow School has something that you want? Where? How did you find it? Zhang Guanyu was quite curious. But Zhang Han's answer shocked him in an instant. When I went to the Cultivation World, I happened to wander around the Wind Snow School and found something I needed. Zhang Wenyu thought, what? Chapter 739, Going Out for Fun Again. What are you talking about? Zhang Wenyu did not know how many times he felt dizzy today. What's going on? You went to the Cultivation World and happened to wander around the Wind Snow School? You even found something you needed and have taken them? No. How did you get into Wind Snow School? Zhang Wenyu asked blankly. Each sect's foundation was the Heaven-Earth formation, otherwise, no one would be able to stand the two surprise attacks. The Wind Snow School's Heaven-Earth formation was relatively poor. During the last few years, the Heavenly Knights sect had broken in and destroyed all the areas outside the main mountain. It was a pity that their main mount had a high-end Heaven-Earth formation, which was also their last defense. Zhang Wenyu had been thinking about destroying the Wind Snow School in the Cultivation World before the gate of the small world was opened, but he failed. It was conceivable that the formation of the main mount was very powerful. How did Zhang Han manage to sneak in? Zhang Wenyu was remarkably curious about this. Using a few tricks. Zhang Han replied casually. The Wind Snow School's Sky Dragon in the Cultivation World wants to refine a 6th stage spirit treasure. He has used most of the spirit treasures in their sect and he still needs more treasure from the main sect. What? A 6th stage spirit treasure? Zhang Wenyu was shocked. Wait. Did you see Zhang Han, who is the Sky Dragon of the Wind Snow School? Zhang Li did not understand what they were talking about. Sky Dragon? 6th stage spirit treasure? Boring. Dad, brother, I'm going to sit over there, you can just talk to each other. Hearing what his daughter said, Zhang Wenyu waved his hand because he was paying close attention to Zhang Han. Humphrey. Zhang Li snorted and walked to Liang Hao with her ponytail swaying. Seeing that, Zhang Han smiled and shook his head. I did not see Sky Dragon, nor did I see the spirit treasure he wanted to refine. However, I saw his method. He refined it by creating the thunder of energy. It's a standard method. Given more time, he will likely be able to successfully refine a 6th stage. Even if he fails, it will be a quasi-6th stage spirit treasure. Dad, the dragon tooth knife you used will still be suppressed in front of a quasi-6th stage. 6th stage or quasi-6th stage. If Zhang Han possesses such a treasure, we'll be caught off guard during the battle. No, I'm going to tell Uncle Dong about this. Zhang Wenyu could not sit still any longer. He stood up and walked to the first elder's villa. Wait, don't worry. Zhang Han did not know whether to laugh or cry. He stopped him and said, I won't let them succeed. Huh? Zhang Wenyu looked at Zhang Han in confusion and frowned. Zhang Han wants to refine a 6th stage spirit treasure which is beyond any divine weapons. The first elder of the main sect of the Wind Snow School led a large number of people there, so he must have a lot of martial arts resources with him. If he succeeds, it will have a great deciding factor on the battle situation. Originally, the top masters can't do anything to each other, but if one has a 6th stage spirit treasure, then the balance will be uneven, which will be a disaster for Heavenly Knight's sect. Dad, are you done? They won't succeed with me around, Zhang Han said with a wry smile. Huh? What do you mean? Zhang Wenyu came to his senses. I need those treasures, so I'm going to sneak into the Wind Snow School and absorb the energy used for refining the treasures, Zhang Han replied slowly. No way. However, Zhang Wenyu forbade him directly after hearing what he said. The first elder of the Wind Snow School and all the other elders will be there. It's too dangerous. You haven't reached the divine realm yet. Didn't I say that I have a way to break into their Heaven-Earth formation? I can enter it quietly. Zhang Han could not hide this matter, so he gave a series of explanations. After that, Zhang Wenyu frowned and said, let's think about it first. Zhang Han did not want to talk about this, so he asked, what's going on with my mother's injury? Her injury. Zhang Wenyu paused and sighed. It was King Zenzi who hurt her. Years ago, I was almost killed by him and fortunately, old Master Chen saved me. However, King Zenzi secretly attacked your mother. Later, when he reached the Earth realm, his attack took effect. At that time, the situation was very dangerous. It was Uncle Dong who joined forces with the other elders to keep your mother alive. But the injury recurred this year. We believe that King Zenz is going to reach the heaven realm. Last month, your mother passed out once. It seemed that King Zenz was breaking through, or he was trying to reach the heaven realm. King Zenz is still a talent of the last generation of the Wind Snow School after all. However, when the gate of the small world opens, I will kill him if possible. By the way, you were able to diagnose what your mother's problem was at a glance. Do you know what kind of poison it is? Do you have any antidote? This is not poison, but witchcraft. When I break through to the innateness stage, I will have a solution. Maybe I can kill King Zenzi directly. Zhang Han replied. He felt that he had to speed up his breakthrough to the innateness stage. Now he could not do anything. I hope the Wind Snow School can give me a surprise. Zhang Han hoped that they could refine some decent treasures, so that the energy of the thunder could increase the number of his thunderclouds. Perhaps the powerful Wind Snow School can help me gather 10,000 thunderclouds. Zhang Han thought that it was not impossible. After all, it was one of the top sects in the world. Zhang Guangyu was surprised by Han's words. To break through to the innateness stage means to have a way to crack it or directly kill King Zenzi. It seems that the innateness stage is the same as the divine realm. Han, do you know much about the divine realm, or do you know anything about the innateness stage? The Danshan is very different from the spiritual force in your body, which was the most important thing. Maybe you still don't know much about it, eh? While Zhang Guangyu was talking, he pointed to his head, indicating that it was about the sense of perception. But before he finished speaking, buzz, he only felt a monstrous wave surging in front of him, like an entire field of sunshine falling down in an instant, and also like a huge wave in the deep sea, and he was like a very small boat. This. Zhang Wengyu's pupils contracted. What's going on? The energy is almost as strong as mine. You have not reached the divine realm yet, so I'm afraid that it will be difficult for you to make a breakthrough. It's indeed difficult to make a breakthrough, but it just needs accumulation. As long as I want, I can make a breakthrough at any time. The biggest change is not only in my spiritual sense and mind trick, but also in the spiritual force. My meridians will be more stable, and my spiritual force will become purer. It can also be called genuine vitality. This is a qualitative change. Zhang Han shook his head slightly. Genuine vitality? Zhang Guangyu patted his forehead and said, well, I'm now dizzy. What you said is too much for me. I'll digest it first. So, just tell me, when will you leave? I'll go to the Kungzu world tomorrow. Zhang Han thought for a moment, then said, I'm going to play with Meng Meng. Go ahead. I'll go and visit Uncle Dong. Zhang Guangyu waved his hand and said. He thought that it was time to tell Uncle Dong some real significant information. Therefore, when Zhang Guangyu entered Dong Chen's villa and saw him, he snorted and said, Uncle Dong, hearing my son's background, you'll be scared to death. He is not a disgrace to my father, and he is going to cultivate. Zhang Han ran to the pet area and played with Meng Meng. With the addition of Papa, the little girl smiled even more happily. In the evening, when they were having dinner in the restaurant, Dong Chen rarely ventured out. He had always stayed in his villa and was indifferent to everyone. But this time, he looked a little surprised. Zhang Guangyu, who was sitting next to him, grinned and raised his eyebrows at his son. Then Dong Chen's voice was heard. Zhang Han, I heard something about your cultivation from your father. It's too exaggerated and needs more observation, but I'll prepare everything for you. As for the trip to the Wind Snow School, I advise you to think it over. If any accident should occur, you should be clear about the consequences. Besides, I won't take back what I said earlier. As long as there's one thing that you excel into a certain level, I'll personally apologize to you and teach you 3 supreme secret skills. Why does the old man talk as if he's a rocket launcher? Zhang Han glanced at him and smiled faintly. I don't need your apology. I'm looking forward to seeing your expression when you come to me for a cultivation skill. Huh? Dong Chen frowned slightly. He glanced at Zhang Guanyu and left without saying anything. The corners of Zhang Guanyu's mouth twitched slightly. His son really didn't bow to others. Ahem, let's eat. He did not say much. It was understandable that talents were a little arrogant. After the meal, the whole family returned to the castle, including Zhang Guanyu, Rong Jiali, Ziqiang and Zixiniu. They had an enjoyable time. Zhang Han took Xian to the guest room on the first floor. What's wrong, honey? Xian asked in wonder. Just give me a kiss first. Zhang Han smiled and put his arms around Xian's slender waist. Meow. Xian tiptoed and kissed Zhang Han on his lips. Then she smiled and said, Are you planning a surprise for me? I'm here just to discuss something with you. What is it? I'm going to cultivate for a period of time in the Kungzu world. I'm wondering if you and Meng will accompany me. I'll be worried if you are not with me. As for my cultivation, if everything goes well, I'll come out 4 times a month and I'll stay out for a whole day. How about we stay at Heavenly Knight's sect for a month? It will be a month and a half before Meng goes to school. After that, we can come back without any delay. When she heard what he said, Xian hesitated for a moment, then said after thinking. But isn't it too early for Meng to be exposed to the martial arts world now? I originally planned to let her get to know about these things at the age of 10. She doesn't have to be exposed to the martial arts world even though she's in Heavenly Knight's sect, Zhang Han said with a smile. Heavenly Knight's sect is very big, almost as big as the whole Hong Kong island. If we go there, we can find a residence almost as big as Mount New Moon. How big? Xian's small face shrank. She had no objection. Then let's go. Just consider the trip as a vacation. By the way, how is the weather there? I'll prepare clothes in advance. Also, if we stay there for a long time, just bring Dai, Little Hai and Tiny Tot along. Otherwise, Meng will make a fuss about coming back to play with them in a few days. Okay, I'll listen to you. The weather is a little cooler there. Okay, when will we set off? Tomorrow? Are we in such a hurry? Well, let's go out now and tell Meng. She will be very happy because she can go out and have fun with her father again. No, with her father and mother. Zhang Han walked out of the guest room with his arm around Xian's waist. After sitting on the sofa, Xian told Meng the news. The result was as they had expected. Meng stood up on the sofa, raised her 2 small hands and cheered happily. We're going out for fun again. Chapter 740. Zhang Guanyu is stunned again. So awesome. Papa, Mama, where are we going? Meng's big clear eyes were shining. What she loved most was to go out with Papa and Mama and have fun. Let's go to your grandpa's hometown. Well, it's also on a mountain. Zhang Han replied. In fact, she wanted to say that it was almost the same as where they were now, but the little girl did not care about the place, but only the fun it would bring. Suddenly, Xian added with a smile, this time, we can also bring along Dai, Little Hai and Tiny Tot. Really? That's great. Meng was so happy that she danced about joyfully. We can finally bring Big Hai, Little Hai, Tiny Tot, Darjan, Little Jin, Big Ha. No, only Dai, Little Hai and Tiny Tot. The other dogs have to stay here. Xian did not know whether to laugh or cry. It was too much to bring dozens of dogs up there. Meng did not mind that they could not bring other dogs there. She liked Dai, Little Hai and the lovely Tiny Tot, because they were intelligent and could understand human language. Although the other dogs were smart, they were not as smart as Dai and the others. Ha ha ha. Zhang Guanyu burst out laughing. He liked Meng more and more. In particular, when he heard that the 2 of them could not have any more children for the time being and only had this girl now. His feelings had changed a little. The desire for wanting more grandchildren had also passively dissipated. In fact, it was a wake-up call when Rong Jiali said to him lightly, who said that women are not as good as men, girls can cultivate too. Therefore, Zhang Wenyu thought that he had a task. When he was free, he would definitely teach Meng how to cultivate and become a martial artist. If Zhang Han knew what his father was thinking, he would be shocked. What, you want to teach Meng? No need, I am already fully prepared. However, Zhang Wenyu did not voice out his idea, which was an expectation and goal in his heart. He hoped that he could settle this war that had lasted for decades within 5 years. Even if he failed to destroy the Wind Snow School, he had to suppress them and make them fearful. He longed for a peaceful life. As for what was right and wrong, he could only wait for his father, Zhang Mu, to come back. In this regard, Zhang Han was quite similar to him. Before going out, Zhang Han had to make a series of preparations. After all, when he chatted with his father before, he had received the news that the Wind Snow School was very suspicious about the deaths of Yao Feng and the others, and some people were also paying attention to this matter. What if they left and then the Wind Snow School sent someone here to destroy this place? After all, the Wang family, the high-level members and the security group from the Zi family were also living here. So, after sitting for about 10 minutes, Zhang Han went into the guest room alone and dialed a number. Director, I hope the number 11 troops can stay on Mount New Moon for a month. Are you going away? I'm going to the Heavenly Knights sect. Okay, I'll report it to the top. I'll call you back later. Danan did not ask too many questions. He could not make the decision on this matter, so he had to inform the higher-ups of the government. However, Zhang Han was absolutely sure that the demand would definitely be met. It was not because he was a nominal general, but because he had helped to improve the local economic status. Liu Qingfeng had increasingly invested more and more assets in Hong Kong. Obviously, he gave priority to Hong Kong strategically. What's more, a few days ago, the arrival of the Zi family, which was a wealthy family with a 100-year history, brought not only financial improvement but, more importantly, talents. In terms of building companies, the government had already contacted them and was very willing to cooperate. Such a business family would improve the local overall economy. Therefore, in the eyes of the government, Zhang Han was a treasure. They were afraid that Zhang Han would suddenly decide to go back to Shangjing someday, which would be a great loss to them. Even the higher-ups quickly dispelled their dissatisfaction with Zhang Han's occupation of the mountain. Many people had even studied whether they could issue green cards for the wrong family in Linhai City in order to draw them over here. Many people were smart. Zhang Han's staying here was advantageous and disadvantageous, but the advantages outweighed the disadvantages. Moreover, the so-called disadvantages were nothing more than the destruction of other forces, such as the Li family, because of his rise. That's the way it was. After all, if there were no earth-shaking fights, how would anyone have information about you? So, less than 2 minutes later, Tanan called back. Okay, we'll come over tonight and stay until you come back. In this way, Zhang Han could go to the Heavenly Knights sect with peace of mind. After the phone call, he returned to the hall. All of them were discussing about who would go to the Heavenly Knights sect. They asked questions in each family group chat and soon there were a series of answers. Zhang Li, Liang Hao, Zhao Feng, Liang Menkai, Zif, Chen Chenqing, Wang Zanping, Wang Ming, Rong Jiaxin, Instructor Liu, Leng and some others planned to check out the Heavenly Knights sect. After all, it was the previous overlord of the Kungzu world, which was something fascinating. That night, Zhang Wenyu asked Zhao Feng to prepare a yacht for the trip. Zhao Feng went to the yacht club. He gestured and did not hesitate to buy a medium-sized yacht which was worth 30 million yuan. This was Zhao Feng's personal money. Now, he was not short of money, nor was he interested in money. Sitting on the yacht, he remembered that when he was a spy, people would do anything for money. If they adopted the same attitude in their cultivation, they would probably be famous by now. In the castle, they sat for a while and said their goodbyes. Xian went up to the 3rd floor. In the large fitting room, there were 3 suitcases at her feet. Let's begin. It's time to prepare the super beautiful clothes. Meng Meng also wanted to join them. She rolled up her sleeves and followed Xian. We also have to take this one. Well, Mama and that one. After sorting through their stuff for more than an hour, they finally went to bed. At 8 o'clock the next morning, they boarded the plane and arrived in Sanmen City at noon. Then they went by car to the entrance of the Cultivation World, which was located at the lake near the village. There was no one in the village and most of the houses were almost demolished. Some people were guarding the surrounding roads. When they saw the line of cars coming and wanted to stop them, they suddenly found that they could not move. It was obvious that these people were martial artists and were going to the Cultivation World. After getting out of the car by the lake, Meng Meng happily took Zhang Han's hand. After walking for a while, she looked up at Dai who was following them. Big hi. The little girl stretched out her arms. Woo, woo. Dai was also very excited, rolling its eyes. After hearing the little master's voice, it reached out and put Meng Meng on its broad shoulder. After walking for 10 minutes, they came to the lake. Meng Meng pointed to the front and said, "Papa, look over there, there's a big ship." It was the medium-sized yacht that Zhao Feng had just bought. "That is the yacht we are going to take," Zhang Han answered with a smile. "It's ours." Meng Meng blinked her big eyes and was a little confused. When did our yacht appear here? After the steps were rolled out, everyone boarded the yacht. Squeak. When Dai stepped on it, there was a crisp sound and it nearly broke the step. Dai was shocked, and quickly restrained its power and floated in the air and then cautiously got on the yacht, step by step. It was more than 2 meters tall but could go anywhere. Then it followed everyone to the top floor. Under the incredulous gazes of many people on the island, the yacht slowly approached the entrance and disappeared. Swish. The next moment, the yacht appeared on the water on the right side of the Heavenly Knights sect. That's just right. It will be about an hour before we arrive at the mountain gate by ship. Zhang Guangyu was not in a hurry. Of course, he made the decision because of Meng Meng, otherwise, he would have flown there with her directly. It's weird, isn't it? Zhang Guangyu took a look at Zhang Han who was standing beside him. Meng Meng was playing with Xian behind them. Zhang Han and his father were sitting by the small table. While they were talking, Zhang Wangyu had a token in his hand. There was one dragon on either side and there were only 3 words on the token, Heavenly Knights Sect. This token is related to the Heaven-Earth formation. When we pass through the entrance, we can communicate with it through our soul sense. This token is not owned by every sect. It is a divine object and is relatively rare. Come on. The young lord of the Heavenly Knights sect, you deserve to have one. While speaking, Zhang Wangyu handed the token to Zhang Han. Okay. Zhang Han smiled and accepted it directly. The Grand Elder Dong Chen, who was sitting at the side, glanced at them and said nothing. In the Heavenly Knights sect, there were only 5 tokens which were used to connect to the Heaven-Earth formation. By the way, I just heard from Meng Meng that you have a little secret related to this lake. Is it the one in the Hidden Dragon Village? Have you found out what I've left behind? Zhang Wangyu asked curiously. Not only did I find it, but I've also been there. What, you've been to the Dark Abyss? Zhang Wengyu's expression changed. That's a dangerous place. Didn't I tell you not to go there before entering the Divine Realm? I've killed more than one martial artist in the Divine Realm. Zhang Han was speechless. Huh? Dong Chen glanced at Zhang Han. Killed a martial artist in the Divine Realm as a Grand Master? This. Zhang Guangyu was stunned and then sighed. Yes, that's what your grandfather left. He detected half of it, but came back because of the crisis at the Heavenly Knights sect. He sealed the route into the gem and planned to explore it later. That gem can retain the soul sense, so I left some words inside. I knew you will definitely go there. I have only heard of the Dark Abyss. It is said that it is very dangerous there. Your grandfather used many tricks to explore half of it. Oh. Zhang Han nodded and said, Uncle Zhang. At this time, Chen King, who was behind them, approached Zhang Guangyu and sat next to him. "I'm not boasting, Brother Han brought me there. It is indeed very dangerous inside, but he had many means, as if we were on a shopping trip. We got a lot of treasures there, including more than 10 kinds of holy objects. Brother Han has refined the most precious treasures in that world. Unfortunately, the boat of curse appeared later and hit Brother Han. Guess what happened later? Huh?" Zhang Guangyu felt confused again. Even Dong Chen was looking at Zhang Han. Seeing this, Shen Chenking smiled and said, "Later, it took Brother Han a few days to cross the Bone Cave, which is one of the Deadlands. He came back and aggressively killed nearly 300 Grandmasters and 7 Divine Realm martial artists. That's why the following things happened. Prince Halin was refined into a drop of blood by Brother Han. It seems that he has killed nearly 20 Divine Realm martial artists, right?" Puff. Dong Chen's abdomen quivered and he almost choked on his saliva. With his face twitching, he quickly coughed twice. His eyes were flickering and he glanced at Zhang Han out of the corner of his eyes. "Is this true? You really have something new to surprise me every day." Zhang Guangyu smiled bitterly. "The longer I am in contact with him, the more I find out about my son. Awesome." Even Zhang Guangyu, whose skills were so excellent, described Zhang Han as a freaking awesome man. His mood could be seen from the words he used.